Welcome to R&R Showtime with Robert.
And Ryan,
And today we're going to be doing our top 10 of 2023. Yay! 2023 is
yeah,
over. It's gone.
yeah, it died. We killed it. We killed it with this list. There's actually, I think the last times we've done this, we did it in the year, but this time it's actually the next year. So we have
Yes.
full time to watch movies.
Yeah, maximum amount of days. And I'm pretty sure, did we do a top 10 at the 6 month mark or something?
We did actually before we start. We uh joined the Zoom call to do this podcast. I was listening to our halfway through the year podcast to sort of get a sense of to re-familiarize myself with our opinions on the movies we had seen, and just to sort of remembered what we had talked about and discussed. And I wanted to
Mhm.
remember what was on your list and what was on my list, because my list has changed even for the movies I had seen in the first half of the year.
Yeah, without having reviewed that podcast myself, when I was going through the list and looking at the movies, and I was like, I definitely remember this being on the other list. There are
Mm-hmm.
movies that were on that list that are on this list as well. And there are some ones that
Yeah.
surprised me on this list, and some ones that are, I mean, they're not that surprising. But it's the
Yeah.
really surprising thing, or it's not actually, I would say it's not surprising, but the impressive thing is seeing how
Mm.
many movies you've watched this year, Ryan.
So I was actually impressed hearing how many movies I had watched at the 6 month mark. At the 6 month mark, I was at 78.
And how many are you at now?
I'm at 160.
That's pretty, I mean, that's like a movie every other day almost, right?
More or less, yeah.
I've watched like 31.
That is you were at 16 at halfway through the year, is what you had said. So
At
that's an
least
improvement, nearly
I
double.
remain I remain consistent.
I mean, we both pretty much doubled.
Yeah. What is that?
Yeah,
That means I watched how many movies a month it would be? Um 31 divided by 12, 12, 24, 36. It's like I watch two and a half movies a month.
2.5. Yeah, 2.5 men a month.
Couple half movies,
Yeah.
which is actually legitimate because I look at some of the things on the list and I'm like, I only watched half that movie and I stopped watching it.
I
Um,
mean, then it wouldn't have made the list to begin with. So
I watched. I mean, I put it on the list. I watched enough of it to not want to watch it anymore.
yeah, but it's not gonna make your top 10.
Yeah.
It wouldn't have made your top 10 regardless of if you had finished it.
Yep. Um, what in any case, unless you have any other, little points to address,
I
then
do
I think we can
not.
get started.
All right.
I'm more
So
interested to hear yours first. What's your
my
number
10,
10?
my number 10 out of 160 movies. So 10, I will say, if I've had to do like a little bit of like careful consideration with my 10, because there were like a handful of movies that like I sort of all like put in like a similar, like, oh god, like I really like this, but like 9 through 1, I think I are all more solidly like, yeah, this is in my top 10. Like 10 to 2021 are like, man, I wish this was in my top 10, but
Hmm.
there's too many to kind of pick on. So the one that I've decided to go with, and this may be a bold choice to have in my top 10, but my number 10 is Joyride.
Bold, so bold. You're probably gonna have seen some movies I haven't even seen, so I do need a description. I don't think I've seen Joyride. I'm certain I
Okay.
haven't seen it.
So, and I haven't watched it in a while. I believe I watched it around July, but it basically it follows this group of four uh women who are three of them live in America. They're all uh I'm sorry. I'm just trying to remember the movie better because it's been a while. All right. So it mainly follows these two girls that are friends because they were introduced to each other as children because they were the only two Chinese girls in like their community. One of them what had Chinese parents, the other one was adopted. And
Mhm.
so this movie follows them, one of the girls' cousins, and one of the girls' friends from college, uh, that all meet up with each other in China for the main character girl. The main character is the girl who has the adopted parents. She basically has this work trip that she's going to in China, and so they all get together to have like a trip together to like see each other and like visit China, like have fun while also go on the work trip. And then the main girl's friend is also trying to convince her to seek out her mom, because her birth mom, because she's never like known like where she comes from. And so but the core of the movie is the relationship between the four women and their friendships with each other and their relationships and stuff. um yeah.
Once you start describing it, I did remember seeing the trailer for it. Looks
Yeah.
like a decent enough movie.
Yeah, it's yeah. Sorry. I know that I like the movie. It's just been a while since I watched it, so I did not do a good enough job refreshing myself with information about it. But yeah, the it's just a fun movie, like in the vein of like a like a sort of classic raunchy R-rated comedy of like a Hangover or a Girls Trip. It's kind of that vibe, more or less. Like I kind of the way I described it was a little bit more like makes it sound less fun than it is, because it's a fun movie. It's like it's a comedy film at its core. But then there's like also like the touching stuff with like the main character girl, like she doesn't want to find out about her birth mom, or at least she says that she doesn't, and so she's resisting trying to do that. And she's not as like familiar with all the cultural stuff because she was raised with white parents, not like actually Chinese parents. And so there's a lot of the stuff about the culture, but there's also like a lot of like raunchy stuff, and there's like this whole like sequence with like them all like um giving injuries to people. Some of the injuries are due to sex, and yeah, it's a funny movie.
Gotcha. Well, I mean, I can respect that. My
Yeah.
number 10, honestly, I'm gonna say that my list is somewhat pretty subjective in general. I
I
would
think
say.
mine's a subjective. Like Joyride's
Yeah.
probably doesn't deserve to be top 10 for like objective best movies.
Yeah, I would say that my number 10 doesn't deserve to be a top 10 for objectiveness next movies. But when I was just I mean, again, I only had 31 to pick from, but like when I was looking, there was a few in my list that I really just was like, for sure, for sure, for sure, for sure. And like a
Mhm.
bunch of things just hit where I like, when I saw the name, I was like, yeah, I actually really like that movie. Despite how good the movie is objectively. And so my number 10 is D&D Honor Among Thieves.
That does not surprise me. And it was in your top 10 for the first half of the year, so I would be surprised if it didn't make it, cuz it was like top 6, I think. Yeah.
Yeah. And again, maybe I just didn't, I haven't have since then. It's not like I watched a ton of more new movies, but a bunch of new movies did make it into this new top 10. But yeah, I mean, like, that movie, I think I said when I was telling people about it, I was like, if you've never seen anything about D&D, it's like, average, decent film, like C plus. If you have seen if you know about some D&D stuff, it gets better. And if you know a lot, it is just made better by understanding the relevance of the content. And I understood it fully, and so it was just better in general for me. But yeah, that's why it squeaks in there at the number 10. So not much more to say about it.
So I have a general ranking of all 160 of my movies. So would you care to know where Dungeons and Dragons ranks in my 160?
Yes, I would like to know where all of the movies I'm going to mention rank in
Okay.
yours out. I got obviously because yours are going to
Where
be the
would you
top
get?
10.
Where would you guess? Where would you guess? Does it make the top
Ooh,
half? Does it make the bottom
I
half?
I'm gonna say, it's a good question. I think in my head maybe it's not as impactful to you perhaps, but I'm gonna say it's out of 160. I'm gonna say it's in the 70s.
It's in the 50s. It's 51.
Oh wow,
So yeah, that's actually pretty darn good. And it is a
that
pretty darn good movie.
that is pretty that's a little better than I thought. I figured it would be in the upper half, but I
My
didn't think even quite that high.
my being nice to movies rating is I think that movie's like a B plus.
Mhm.
My trying to be cynical and like fair and like grade movies on a bell curve like my brother rating, it's like a it's like a 3.5. It's like a C.
Yeah.
On that rating, it's a C.
Mhm.
On
Mhm.
my actual how much did I enjoy this movie, I
Mhm.
give it a B plus.
Which I respect,
Yeah.
like we're at about the same place, right? Like, and I
Yeah.
wouldn't even say it's cynical, right? It's you're just being critical, like you got to take out how good is a movie between like how much you enjoyed it. Like, I would say this is not like objectively a fantastic, like a super well crafted movie, but I liked it. Like, I was target audience, they made it for me, and I enjoyed it.
Yeah.
Um,
I say cynical with that in that sense because like I just in doing this I like movies. That's my problem. Is like even when I know a movie's not that good, I still have a good time.
This is what I've said before. I'm like, every movie can't be a B and an A. If it is, then no movies are B's and A's.
And when everyone's special, no one will be.
Okay, I think I will move into my number 9 then.
Yes, sir.
Which it was also, I'm pretty sure this was also on my last top 10 for the 6 month mark. It's a good person. Uh,
It was in
yeah,
your top
with
10.
it was just, I mean, it was just good, and maybe it's slightly just because I just like Florence Pugh and Morgan Freeman. Like,
That Florence Pugh power, it is
that's
impactful.
yeah, it was how I was gonna try to make some kind of whatever. Yeah, it was good. It was probably just good her.
Yeah.
That's all there is to it.
Yeah. Which is fair.
Yeah. Where's that rank on your? Oh wait, never mind. Because it's in your top 10, isn't it?
It's not.
Oh, never mind. Then tell me.
Um
It's in the bottom
so
half.
it is in the bottom half.
It's in the teens, the hundred teens.
It's in the hundreds.
It's in the hundred teens. Is it lower than the hundred teens?
Technically the number is higher than 110.
What is it?
141.
Wow.
Yeah, right below Jesus Revolution.
Right below Jesus. I don't know what that. I don't know what that movie's like, but
So so honestly, like maybe I'm being too harsh on this movie, but like my problem is that I just don't really remember it. You know, it
well,
didn't
that's
like
that's
it
like
doesn't.
I want to say that that's a totally fair way to assess it, because especially when you watch so many movies, like only the ones that really stand out to you are actually gonna like be memorable.
Yeah, movies that tend to score lower for me are either movies that like I remember the experience and not having a good time, or I don't remember the experience that much, and what I can remember from the movie doesn't really stand out as like being that special to me. Like again, I'm like, did I like that movie or do I just like watching Florence Pugh? And then is that
That's
really
a good point.
yeah, so that's the thing. So
Mhm.
like yeah. And I was like listening to you talk about it because I was re-listening to the podcast. So I was listening to you talk about it. I'm like, man, maybe I'm mean to this movie. Like he really liked it. And like now that he's talking about it, like maybe I have this too low. But maybe I need to reassess. I haven't been as like close at like my lower rankings, so maybe I need to be reflect on that one more. Maybe I'm being too harsh. So going from number 10, or your number 9, I'm going to my number 9, and my number
Hmm.
9 was in my top 10 at the midway point. Um, and at the time, like I gave the caveat of saying that I had watched the movie the day before, and so I wasn't sure if I had a lot of recency bias in putting it in my top 10. But here we are, and it's still in my top 10, and it's the movie Past Lives.
Was oh yes, I know which one this is. Um, it's the one where it's like two people that like were interested in each other when they were younger,
Yeah.
sort of reconnect later in life, right?
Yeah. Yeah. So, broad strokes, because I did describe it in the other podcast, but it's about these a boy and a girl in Korea that are close when they're 12, and like they like have feelings, they have crushes on each other. But the girl gets moves away to Canada. And then 12 years later, they sort of reconnect online, but they are busy in their lives. They're like in the like young adult phase, like going through like college and work opportunities. So, and they're separated. Like the girls moved to New York at that point, and the guy's still in Korea. And so they don't really have the ability to connect in person. And so again, they ended up having a break from each other. And then we find them another 12 years later where she is married and he is finally making the trip from Korea to visit her. And yeah, just like seeing their relationship evolve over time and like see them sort of reflect on the people that they were, the people they could have been, the past lives, if you will. But yeah, so it's just a profoundly good movie. And I remember at the time, or I listened to the podcast and heard me basically talk about how that I hope that the movie would be in contention for award seasons. And I do believe that it is in the conversation. It's not a shoe in to be like get nominations. And having seen a lot of the award movies, it's a tough competition, but I do hope to see it like get a lot of recognition and love come this award season.
Oh, are the Oscar nominees being announced or?
Golden Globe nominations have come out, and some other awards have had their nominations announced, but Oscars don't like they start voting, I think, in this month, and they'll announce nominations this month.
Gotcha. Okay. Well, cool. That is probably, I mean, that's probably one that I'll have to go and try to go out of my way to watch because I mean, you liked it then, you like it now, and your recommendations are, uh, I am, in my opinion, they're always good. So,
I'm
except
glad
unless it's Paddington.
you liked Paddington too.
Yeah, but I think you overhyped it. I think best movie ever was hard to swallow.
I did not say it was the best movie ever. I said it was the best talking bear movie of 2017.
Okay, well, that's a fair statement, I guess.
Yeah, it and Christopher Robin. All right,
Um,
so that was my number 9, and so I go into my number 8. My number 8. Oh, so my number 8, I I gave you a little bit of I didn't give you homework. You requested some movies, some easy movies to watch on Netflix. And I gave you 2 movies. I don't know if you watched both of them.
I tried to watch Maestro, and literally just didn't have time. Like I started put it on, watched about first 15 minutes, and then was like, I need to go sleep. I
Okay. So you didn't finish my show?
did not.
Okay. What about May December?
Didn't even start it.
Didn't even start it? Okay. Well, now I'm going to talk to you about May December
Ah.
because Maestro is also quite good. I think of the 2 movies, you'd probably like Maestro more. Because I don't like it just like I don't know. But May December, I gave you vague a description of what the plot of the movie was, so I have to be a little bit more specific. May December follows Natalie Portman, who has come to basically observe the mannerisms of Julianne Moore's character in the movie, because Natalie Portman's going to portray her in a movie inspired by her life. And the reason why a movie is being made about her life is because Julianne Moore's character um, uh, got
Just
pregnant with a child of a with a 13-year-old boy. She
ah
when she at the age of 36, when she had children and she was married, she started a relationship with a 13-year-old boy, and we've jumped forward in time where her and that 13-year-old boy, he's no longer 13, he's in his 30s, but they do have, a handful of kids together. Their youngest kids are going off to college. They're 18 years old, and yeah, we just sort of have Natalie Portman come in to like kind of like try and get into the mind of this woman. And you also see this grown man who ended up marrying and having a life with the woman who, groomed and sexually assaulted him because he was a 13-year-old.
wow, that
Yeah,
sounds like a movie.
it is a movie, and
Oh
it's certainly something. It's like it's also the what's fascinating about it is like on the one hand, I think it's solidly a drama, but it's also at least according to the Golden Globes, it's a comedy.
a comedy in the classical sense.
like like a comedy in the sense that
Or
like
like we're supposed to
at the
laugh at this.
there is stuff in there that you laugh at. The reason I brought up the Golden Globes is that Golden Globes split up their Best Picture into two categories: drama and musical/comedy. May December is in the musical/comedy category.
Okay,
I don't think I agree with that. There's
I'm
some
not sure
stuff
that
in
I
it
do either.
that's there is stuff in there that is humorous and that like is intended to make you laugh, and there is a sense that the whole movie is a satire, but then you also have the real like impact of I believe the actor who plays the grown man like that's married to Julianne Moore's character. His name is Charles Melton, and he is in I've heard that he is in talks to possibly get a nomination for best supporting actor. I don't think he'll win because Robert Downey Jr. and Ryan Gosling and a handful of other people. Like there have been a lot of good supporting acting performances this year, but I do think he deserves to be up there because he really does something with this role. Like you really, yeah, yeah. I think you should watch the movie, brother.
I'll I'll watch the movie. I might watch it
Yeah.
tonight.
All right.
Um,
Cool.
well, off of that, moving into my number 8 is The Creator.
That movie's really good. I'm glad you like it. I'm glad you enjoyed that movie.
So let me say this is that I don't think that The Creator is like a perfect movie. This is another one where again most of the list is subjective. I don't think it's a perfect movie. I think it's ambitious. I think it's trying to do a lot of cool things. It's trying to like go for some like deep concepts. Yeah, I want to say these criticisms a little bit because I think like it tries to like touch on like some really big stuff and doesn't like quite fully go all the way with some of the things it touches on. Like this is almost a movie like where I maybe want to see like a sequel that like explores some of the stuff further.
Yeah,
Um,
the world building is very good. Like
yeah.
the it's like a very ambitious like a sci-fi project, sci-fi world that
Mhm.
you just want more from it. And
Yeah.
yeah,
And I like that it's like this is kind of new. I mean, it's not they're not reinventing the wheel here, but like it's trying to do something a little different when I really just appreciate nowadays like movies that are a little different or we're trying to create a new story when there's just so much recycled stuff nowadays. That's how I felt
Mhm.
with this. I was like, this is big, ambitious, lots of great visuals. But like I think I actually gave it like a B or a B plus, like it wasn't like a perfect, I think it was like a B. It was not perfect by any means, but it was really good though. I think it was just really good, and they were really trying something different, and so that's why it gets in here on my top 10. Because I look at all the other movies I watched, and like some of them are like really great, but a lot of them are just they were just like okays. And this one it sort of set itself apart.
So
Um, oh, go ahead.
I I was just gonna note that I also give it about a B plus, and it basically has more or less the same grade as I gave Dungeons and Dragons. So I kind of have
Mhm,
them basically on the same level because of the sheer number of movies. Its rating is lower than Dungeons and Dragons by some, but
mhm,
I do like I I'm happy that you have it on this list, to be honest, because I do think it's quite a
mhm,
good movie. There's actually a movie critic that I quite respect who had it in his top 10
mhm,
films of the year as well. And so I think that you like I yeah, I'm happy that you saw that movie and you enjoyed it because I don't think
mhm,
that many people did actually take the time to see it. And so yeah, I do think it deserves a shout out.
mhm. And I really like John David Washington.
Yes, he does a great job. The child actor, the child, the like the main like his
Yeah,
yeah, she does a really good job in the movie too. Like,
I also agree with that.
yeah, I don't know her name, but like she like anytime that I see that clip of her saying like neither of us will go to heaven because you're not good and because I'm not a person. Like
Mhm,
that little clip like just like sort of like it will exist in my brain. It's like just very impactful in the way she delivers it and like her just performance in the movie as a whole. Very good.
mhm. Yep. Where does it rank on your list?
66.
66. I mean, still
Still
fairly
in the
good.
top half.
Yeah.
Still in the top half. Yeah.
Okay. We'll roll my number 8 into my number 7. And this one, I mean, it's it's Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, which
Mhm.
was on my last list as well.
And it was on
And
my last
really,
list as well.
yeah, and it just, I mean, it's like the last Marvel movie I think I saw this year. And it's like the last Marvel movie I, like was excited for and was actually rewarded with a movie that felt good and I enjoyed. And I like again when I was looking at the list, what made it easy is when like things when I just remembered in my like when I saw a name and I was like, bam, like if I just thought I liked it, like I used my kind of that first reaction, I was like, I did like this. It almost gave me a little more maybe it's just, again it's Marvel. It's like we know these characters and we're along for this story. So that's kind of why it beats out the creator. I'm not even saying objectively that better than the creator. They're probably like fairly similar. I think this movie is not ambitious, but it does. I think. It was just good. It was good, and it gives you a lot of the things that you look for and hope for in a Marvel movie. And so yeah, I mean that's what I makes it there. Where is this on your list?
So, okay, so this is your number 7, right?
This is.
Okay, so we're gonna momentarily skip over my number 7 so we can
Mhm.
discuss it as my number 6.
Ah.
Um, because I would go from my 7 into my 6 anyway, so we're just gonna put a pause on my 7.
Mhm,
Uh, I love Guardians of the Galaxy. It was my number 2 on the halfway through the year list.
mhm,
And yeah, like again, like I still have to, like think about the fact like that movie just sort of like took me along for the ride and like all the highs and the lows of it. And like I do recognize that there are a lot of people that the movie did not fully work for them. And I've heard the criticisms and like sometimes I'll hear a criticism for a movie that I enjoyed and it sort of seeps in and I do sort of see a movie differently. But with Guardians of the Galaxy, that has not happened. Like I still hold that movie in the way that I felt in the way that I saw it the first time. And like and I've said it before and I'll say it again, like that movie got me starting to tear up like within just the first few minutes, and like it just sort of like had me the whole way. Yeah, I love it. It's a great movie. I love the Guardians. Great send
Mhm.
off. And you know, Disney would be foolish if they let that James Gunn guy go.
Yeah, they'd be really foolish if they did that.
Yeah.
That would be just one of the only foolish things I've ever done.
The only foolish thing, you
The only
know.
foolish thing, if they ever were to do something like that. So that is your number six.
So I'm gonna go back to my real quick
Yeah.
though. Isn't it crazy? Though that like with Disney, like in past years, Disney has like sort of like been like the kings of the box office. Guardians
Hmm.
of the Galaxy is their only movie that is within the top 10 highest grossing films of the year. The
Yep.
only Disney movie that made that top 10. That's
I I I think I might have heard, and this could be incorrect, that it's like one of the only one of their movies that made money this year.
yes, a lot of their movies made lost a lot of money. A
Yeah.
lot of money. Yeah. Which like I don't want that because of like you know like I don't want movie studios to lose money on movies at the box office, because then they're gonna just be like, well, let's just stop putting movies in theaters because people don't want to see them. No, just make good movies.
Mm.
People will go to the box office for good movies.
Oh man, hey, I was just reminded of something. I might have to make an
What?
audible on this list. I might have to go back and change one of my old ratings and slot something in. Like I might have to kick D&D out. Actually, no. You know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna swap something out. I'm gonna go back and swap real quick, guys. Pause
I'm fine
everything.
with this. I'm fine
I'm
with
going
this.
back. I'm going back to swap something in because I forgot a movie because I was looking at your list, right? I had Ryan send me his
Yeah.
list, right? And I went through that and then wrote down all the movies I had seen on his list. And I even asked you, hey, is this up to date? And you said no. So I was like, okay, so it's missing a couple movies, but it was missing one that I did see and definitely deserved to be on this top 10 list. I'm only going to kick out Good Person. I'm going to kick that one down to 11, and I'm going to swap this in here at least. So at my number nine, just so I know we're going back, my number nine,
Yeah.
Godzilla minus one.
Great choice. Oh my god.
Yeah, just
It's
a
not in my
good
it is
damn
not in my
movie.
top 10. It is not in my top 10, but it was in that category of like I mentioned like 10 through like 21 or all movies that could have been number 10.
Mhm.
Godzilla minus 1 is my 19. Great
Mhm.
choice. I'm happy. Yeah. Good choice.
Yeah, I literally it's crazy I forgot about it, but I don't when we were talking about movies making money and losing money
Yeah.
because I also heard that like that movie was filmed with like $15 million budget,
Yes, it
and I
was
was
on
like,
a pretty tight budget. Yeah.
how is this like this movie looks good? Like it doesn't
Isn't
look like
that
it's made with 15
crazy?
million dollars. Like which it just goes
Yeah.
to show like you don't need to spend 200 to $300 million on a movie for it to be good. You could just make a good movie.
Indiana Jones, I think, cost $350 million to make.
What a joke. I did end up actually seeing that. I feel like it actually I think it got a worse rap than it was. Still not satisfactory.
The best thing you can say about it is that it is better than Kingdom of the Crystal Skulls.
Debatable. Debatable. Um, but I just want to kick that out. Good person, you're an honorable mention. And Godzilla minus one, you are, which is funny because I kicked out my number nine. Because
Yeah.
maybe after talking with you a bit, I was like, D&D needs to stay on the list, but Godzilla definitely needs to hop in here. Godzilla might have been a little higher, but I definitely that was the one I could easily swap it out for.
I
Let's
was
jump back
gonna
to your number seven,
I
though.
choose to believe that you still have a movie that has Florence Pugh in it on
Mhm.
your list. I choose to believe that. If you don't, I do.
We'll see.
All right. So I momentarily skipped over my number 7, so I'm going to come back to that. My number 7 is The Holdovers.
Ooh, that one. Okay, that's another one that I could have had on the list that I really forgot. I literally forgot. Oh my God. I
Damn,
could have redone this
damn.
entire list. See, this is where I messed up because I should have made sure I got your updated list.
Yeah, I mean, it's okay. But
Honorable mention.
this was a movie that I specifically like. I think it was because you came into town, and so you were like, "What's a movie I should watch?" I'm like, "Go see The Holdovers," because
Yep, that was good.
at that point, I already knew it was in my top 10. Um, but yeah, it's just this like for those that don't know, it's this movie about this like a boarding school basically, and like some of the kids are over Christmas break. They don't like they're not able to go back with their families for the break, and so they're the holdovers over that break period. They just have to stay at the school with the one faculty member and the or two faculty members, three faculty members technically, but like you mostly spend it with like the lunch lady who's gonna serve them food, and like help like give them their meals and stuff, and like this teacher played by Paul Giamatti, and
So good.
so good.
Paul Giamatti, so
Uh,
good.
yeah, he's very good in it. The lunch lady, Divine Joy Randolph, who is favorite in awards conversations as well. Very good. Just and it's like set at Christmas time, so you get a lot of that warm Christmas fuzzy feelings. And it's all shot with this. It takes place in the 70s. I'm pretty sure it's
Hmm.
the 70s, and like it's all shot with this like it's shot to look like a movie from the 70s
Yep.
because there's like it has this like film grain texture to it that
Hmm.
like puts you in that era, and there's just like the way that there's just something about it, you know, like the way it's directed, the way it's written, the way that the actors, like everything's believable. It's just a solid film.
Hmm. Yeah, that should have been in my top 10 if I remembered it.
Do
Not
you have
because it was
anything?
forgettable, but
Yeah, it
yeah.
just wasn't. You had forgotten.
Mhm.
It just wasn't in like the movies you were looking at. Honestly, I was
Yeah.
expecting it in your top 10, so I'm glad that it would like if it's not in there, it's just an oversight.
It is just an oversight. Damn it. Feel bad that I
Yeah.
didn't make it in there. It's okay.
Well, just say what do you have to say about it?
I mean, everything you said is, I mean, it was you told me to watch it, and it was a movie where, like, I feel like you look at it and you're like, oh, this looks okay. It looks like a movie to see. But again, it's just, it's one of those movies that kind of surprises you how good it is. It's just
Mhm.
well done, well acted. Like the story is, simple, but it's kind of just like a slice of life, like watching this thing happen and, how all these people end out, how it develops. It's just good.
Yeah. All right. That's good, and I'm happy you enjoyed it. So that was my 7. Guardians was my 6. So we go back to you for your 6.
Yeah, went to my 9, went to your 6, went to my 9, went to your 7. Okay, so now we're
This is
at
how you.
my,
This is math is hard.
yeah, math is hard. So total upset, right? And this one, I might have, if I was rearranging my list, like I might have gotten holdovers on there and Godzilla and like might have, like maybe rearranged where they were. But this one, this movie totally surprised me when I saw it and was like, why is this so good? Like now this movie could be lower than those other my other two after reassessing the list, but where it is legit. Gran Turismo.
That is a good movie.
I saw that movie. I can't even remember why I saw it. I think I saw it because like I just had time one day and I heard somebody say this movie is surprisingly good. And I went and watched it and that's exactly you come out here like, how is this movie this good? This movie, the Gran Turismo movie, the movie based on a literal video game, it's a video game movie, has no right to be this good. And it was. And I sat next to some kids in a D-box seat. So, see that I was like moving and there's like speakers in the seat. So I was getting like the kind of the side benefits of it a little bit, just being next to those speakers. And it was kind of like I was like, wow, I wish I was in the D-box seats. Like, cause when the track, like he's racing on the track, like the seats are moving and vibrating with the what's happening. And it's just, yeah, that movie was, for some reason, just really, really good. Deserves to be watched, actually.
Sorry, I was listening. I went to go find it on my list so I could let's see. All right. So yeah, so the Gran Turismo is, I agree, it's a good movie. It you really don't expect, there's a specific part of the movie that I don't think anybody expects to happen unless you knew about the real life story of this guy.
I didn't even know it was a real story.
Yeah.
At the end, I was like, wait, this stuff was real? Like,
And in the movie, all the like the stunt driving that like you see in the film is done by the actual guy.
wow, that's
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah. So, but yeah, so the lead actor, I forget his name. Let me actually look it up. Sorry, folks. I'm sorry. Sorry.
Unforgiven. Unacceptable. You should have had this ready,
Uh,
Ryan.
Archie Madekwe. Um, yeah, Archie Madekwe, David Harbour, Orlando Bloom. You know, Orlando Bloom's in this movie. And David Harbour is really good in it. But yeah, that Archie Madekwe, I had seen him. I think the thing that I recognized him from was Midsummer, where he
Mhm.
was, he was the guy that was turned into the he
Yeah,
would, yeah.
he's in another pretty good movie that's definitely on a list.
Is it?
Mhm. I don't know.
All right. Well, but yeah, so he's very good in this movie. Yeah, it's a fun little it's not entirely fun, there's some drama there, there's some real emotion. But yeah,
Mhm.
like this movie like is in that the category of a lot of movies this year of movies about like a product that they take like a real life story about this product, and it's like in a way it's like an ad for the product, but is also like an actually good movie. Like up there with like movies like Tetris and Flamin' Hot and Air and technically Ferrari, Ferrari, I
Flamin'
think, is a
Hot? Did you say
the
Flamin'
story of
Hot?
the story of how Flamin' Hot Cheetos came to be.
Are you freaking serious? Is that a movie you watched this year?
Yeah. I watched Flamin' Hot. I watched Air about the Air Jordans. I watched Tetris about Tetris. I watched Blackberry about the Blackberry.
Wow. Okay.
And Gran Turismo, unlike those, all those are like origins of how the products came to be. Gran Turismo is still technically an ad for a video game, but it's about a real thing they did with the video game. And it's a remarkable story.
He's an ad.
Yeah, decent.
Uh, that was my number
Sick.
6. Do I go
Yes.
5?
You go
Or should
into your
we?
five.
Are you sure we shouldn't go back to your 8? Or maybe we
My
should go to
eight?
your
No.
number
Oh,
1 real
oh.
quick.
Well, at number one.
Um,
No, you go into your five,
my
sir.
number 5, just a classic ending question mark, to a solid franchise, even though they're definitely not going to just end it. John Wick 4,
John Wick
bang bang
4.
shoot shoot. Yeah,
Bang, shoot, shoot, bang.
solid ending to that series. Probably, I mean, maybe it's either it's tough to say with the John Wick films, like which ones are the best. Like I think I think it's one of the better ones. Maybe
I
number 2.
agree.
Like I don't know if you. I think it's probably 2, and like number 1 just because it kind of started off and it was grounded a little bit.
Yeah,
Number 1 I think stays number 1, but this one actually is probably the second best one. Like,
I would agree with that. It's definitely better. It's definitely better than Parabellum, which
mhm,
was three. And I think yeah, it would be contention with number two, but I think it's better than two as well.
mhm.
Yeah, it's very good. Like and it was on your halfway list, and I remember talking about it because I talked about it in reference to Sisu, which
Mhm.
because Sisu was on both of our lists or no, Sisu almost made it onto my list, and Sisu was on your list, but below it. And I felt
Mm.
that Sisu was better, and I still think that it's better than John Wick, Chapter 4. But John Wick Chapter 4, for reference, in my 160 movies, is number 31. So that's still pretty darn good. You know, it's still an excellent action movie. Yeah,
Pretty dang good.
yeah,
But yeah, we breach into the top five now. What is
yeah.
your top five
My number five.
out of
This is
160 movies?
this is my wildest take, I think. I think this is the most out of left field. Like, this is the movie in my top 10 where it's like, oh, this is a child. A child made this list. At number five, I put Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Mutant Mayhem.
I don't hate that. You know,
I I'm glad you don't, because I think did you watch it?
I did.
Okay. So I think that it definitely is following in the sort of wake of Into the Spider-Verse, which left which made, which gave us Puss in Boots: The Last Wish and Across the Spider-Verse, of course. And so it's in that vein of like really experimenting with animation, and it takes its animation in a completely unique path of like being like stencil drawn or like pencil drawn, like notebook, like doodles and stuff. So the art direction of the movie I find fantastic.
Mm.
And some people might be like, oh, this is just a nostalgia grab. Like, he must love the Ninja Turtles. And so that's why it's in the top five. I've been thinking about it. I don't think I actually ever really liked the Ninja Turtles. I didn't really watch the show. I like the movies. I think I watched it, but they never really left a big impact on me. I think I spent a lot of my childhood not knowing which one was Michelangelo or Raphael. Like, I was like, they're the orange and red ones, you know?
How dare you?
Like, so like I didn't have a big feeling about the Ninja Turtles. But this movie, and like you'll hear it from anybody that liked this movie, what this movie did that like really like sort of like made the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles click for me was make them teens, make them teenagers.
I was gonna say, you know, like watching this movie, like movie's actually it's good and decent. Like I feel like I saw the commercials ahead of time. I was like, you know, screw this movie. Like I don't want to see this movie. This isn't my Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. You know, but when I watched it, I was like, nah, this is actually pretty good.
Yeah.
But I remember thinking even ahead when I saw the commercials, I was like, the old Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles was like really ninja mutant turtles that are teenagers. Like, you know, like in that
They're
order. It's like it was really about them being like ninjas. Like,
they're
we're like mutant
adults.
turtle ninjas.
They were adults behaving like what they think teens behave like. These turtles behave like teenagers.
Yeah. But and then this is where it comes in. It's like teenagers today. So it's like ugh, Gen Z mutant ninja turtles.
Gen Z mutant ninja turtles. Gen Z mutant
and
ninja turtles.
and then maybe like the way I could encapsulate is that like teenage, you know, TMNT, the older ones, right? You know, they're kind of like weird, goofy, you know, like with guys in costumes and stuff. But like, I felt really cool. Like the old ones felt like cool to me, and I was like, wow, yeah, like the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles are so cool. You know, like and even you look like their enemies and stuff. Like they're all dressed up in like cut off like jean like
Yeah.
shirts and stuff, and you know, Bebop, Rocksteady, and like all you know so a lot of the stuff that they do, even though those old movies are a little weird too, like, you know,
Mm-hmm.
80s, 90s, like kind of like weird how they got them across. Those new Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, I think they tried to lean into the cool as well, like update it and be like,
Yeah.
yeah, these guys are still really cool. And I even kind of like that more, even those movies kind of also kind of sucked.
Yeah.
Um, this it felt like to me for these Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, they're less cool, you know. But I accept that because again, the point is like they're teenagers though. Like what teenagers are actually like cool, you
Mm-hmm.
know. And so I understand. I get what I just feel like maybe I'm not like its target demographic in a sense, so I can appreciate it for what it is. But it just didn't, you know, like I didn't love it as much as maybe some other people could.
Like me.
like you.
Yeah, but yeah. So and Jackie Chan's in this movie.
Oh, that was the other thing too. That was another good point. I feel like they did Master Splinter kind of dirty. I was like, man, he was like cool, wise rat guy, and then he's like weird geriatric, like it's
He's
just
like a
yeah, again,
father, but he does get a cool action sequence.
he does get a cool action sequence, and he like literally like breaks his back. He's like, ah, my back, like like so I'm like, damn, that's like not supposed to. Master Splinter was like wise, like a wise sensei, like exactly like more ninja back in the day. It was like, boys, you must da 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 da,
I think this
and
is.
oh,
You know what this is? This is the second time that Seth Rogen personally ruined an animated movie for you this year.
mother fricker, yeah. Seth Rogen, stop, please.
It's too late. He controls the means of production.
Yeah, stop being in things. But that was your number five.
That
What
was my
is your
number five.
number four?
So it was eventually going to happen in this list that we discuss a certain cinematic phenomenon this year. Um, and I think,
I'm not sure what you're getting at.
at number four.
Pretend there's people listening to a podcast and they can't see what you're doing right now.
Oh, that's true. You know what? I forgot about that. At
That was
number
just a long
four.
pause.
Number four is Barb of Barbenheimer, aka Barbie.
Okay, that's a movie.
So yeah, highest grossing film of the year. I'll have you know.
I am
It's
known.
a yes. So Barbie, it's this little indie movie, made by Greta Gerwig.
Mhm.
She's from she's from some place called Sacramento. Who cares?
Some
Um,
fucking shithole.
the armpit of America. Starring Margot Robbie and I don't even know how to pronounce this name. It's got a random Y in it. Rayanne, I
Ken
think.
Gosling or something?
Rayanne, I think is his name. It's who would spell a name like that? Gosling though. All right, enough of this. It's Barbie. You if you haven't heard of the movie Barbie or the Barbenheimer phenomenon,
You're living under a
or
rock.
yeah, like it's the movie of the year. It's I, I've been was excited about Barbenheimer for a long time. Like I was on the train. I was excited to see both of those movies, and neither of them disappointed. But I think Barbie actually surprised me with how good it ended up being. Like I think I don't know if anybody was expecting Barbie to be what Barbie ended up being, you know? Like
Hmm.
the soundtrack slaps, like the characters slap, like the story is like it's like in a way like it's not like that profound. Like I think I've heard that it's like the similar plot to like the movie Elf or something. Or there's like another movie that like people have been like Barbie has the same plot as this. So like it's not necessarily the most original plot in the world, but like it just is this wholly unique cinematic experience of like pink and like I don't know. And like I think part of like the joy in seeing the movie is like the shared cinematic experience of like even if you didn't wear pink to the premiere, you went to see the movie and you probably saw people wearing pink. Or you went to see a completely different movie and you saw a bunch of people wearing pink at the movie theaters and you're like, what are these people here for? They're here for Barbie.
Yeah. I want to say, the anybody that makes the point of like this is the same plot as this, there is nothing new under the sun.
That's
That's
true.
always going to be true, basically, of everything for the rest of time. And so I don't really,
I
I can understand maybe where someone's coming from, but like unless something's like beat for beat, like you trying to like draw like lines to it. It's like, okay, yeah, well, we can probably sit around and do this with every movie that exists, if given enough time. So but again, I didn't like absolutely love Barbie, but Barbie's a good movie. Like, it's fine. Like, and, anybody that like hates on it, like I have some criticisms of it. I don't think it's actually that fantastic of a movie. It was just a phenomenon, which
Yeah.
propelled it, further. But it was fair enough. So I have
I
nothing
used to
against that being on a
float.
list.
I used to float. Now I just fall down. I looked it up, and it's the same. People have said it's the same plot as the Lego Movie, and that the has the same ending as Black Panther.
It's the
Which again,
same.
I don't. I as the Lego Movie.
It's it's just like who cares if it has the same? Of course, every movie's probably going to end, but still,
They're
but
not. I don't think it's as criticisms. I think it's more for like the like one to point it out because someone
Mhm,
noticed it, and like the memes
mhm,
of it. It's like Barbie is the Lego Movie or something like that, or
mhm.
Barbie is Black Panther. Like that's
Yeah,
just like an attention grabbing thing to say.
mhm.
But yeah,
Fair
so
enough.
based on your how you seem to react to Barbie. I don't think it's in your top four.
It's not.
Oh, how unfortunate.
How unfortunate.
So what is your number four then, Mr. Man?
My number four is Iron Claw.
The Iron Claw.
The Iron Claw. I just, man,
Hmm.
Zac Efron was just fantastic. So good at that. I just felt like it was just like a well acted, like a cool story. I did not realize it was true. I mean, or based on true people and stuff at all. I literally had to like at the end. I was like surprised. And yeah, it was just like a compelling story, of a family and brotherhood and like you can like I just think it was so well acted by the guys in it. It was just I just
Yeah,
thought it was great.
Zach Efron does a good job. I think his name's Jeremy Allen White. People know him from The Bear or Lip from Shameless.
Mhm.
He's really good in it.
Mhm.
One I heard a review that singled out the mom who's like very small in the movie, but
Mhm.
like the mom, there's like a scene where like she just sort of like has this like very subtle like sort of break, and it's because of like some of the stuff that occurs, the real life
Yeah.
stuff that occurs. And I remember seeing that and being like, wow, this movie's pretty freaking great.
Mhm.
And yeah,
Yeah.
real story, a real tragedy. I do believe like the story of two of the real life brothers were combined into one character. Because there was like one brother that basically got removed for the movie.
Yeah. I
Yeah,
looked it up afterwards. There is another brother named Chris who also passed.
yeah, had a tragic fate.
Hmm.
Not to for the people. I was able, you and me both, I think, were able to enter the movie not knowing any of the
Yeah, I
real
didn't
life
know.
stuff. But like there are plenty of people who did know this story and
Hmm.
like remember what happened. And so like
I'm
you're
sort of
just
glad
sort
like
of
I didn't know.
because
So
and like even I think that I knew that it was going to be a sad story, but you without knowing exactly how sad and like how that plays out, you don't know what like the curse really is.
yeah. Yeah, they
But
set it
yeah,
up and they're like this curse, and then the events that just keep cascading and transpiring. And again, at the end to have it be like this was a true story. All these like sorry, maybe I don't know if it was like strictly all these things happened like that, but like yeah, all these boys like ended up dying. Um, which again, spoilers. Sorry, it's not spoilers. It's history, so it's like real facts and stuff. Um, but yeah, so it was just impactful, man. And Zac Efron, I just thought was like amazing. He was just like great.
mhm,
Like there's a lot of subtleties in how things were done in this movie that I just really liked. So
yeah,
recency bias. Also, I literally just saw it like last week.
yeah, which is valid. I think I watched it whenever it came out. And I have it at 61. So still I still think it's a good movie.
Mhm.
Um, not in my top 10, but still I
Mhm.
still respect the choice.
Mhm.
All
Yep.
right. So
Does that mean it's my number three or
number three, I have a feeling, I just have this ink of a feeling that we may have the same three movies. I hope at least.
I
I
don't
don't
think
know
we have
for
the
sure.
same three,
At
but
least I think two of our movies will probably
two.
overlap.
Yeah, two of them.
Okay.
So is our number three the same
I
with a
don't know
movie
if it will.
I just watched also last week and immediately messaged you about because you told me to watch it?
It's not. It's
It's
not.
not. Is it even
No.
in there?
We'll have to see.
I have to see. My top three is Saltburn. Again, recency bias. Just watched last week. Barry Keoghan's fantastic. I got to the end of that movie. It was just like, damn, I'm gonna say this like objectively, it actually wasn't like the best. There's a twist. I don't want to talk about the twist because I would like to lead it up to people. Um, but it's not objectively like the best twist, or anything. But
Yeah.
yeah, it's just a wild ride. It really is a
Yes.
wild ride. And the further it goes along, like you get into it, there's something about like a quietness of the movie that like builds and like it's almost like tough to even say, like where the magic of this movie is. But at the
Yeah.
end of it, I was like, damn, that was actually really good.
Yeah.
Um, and
And
again, yeah,
so
might be recency, but yeah.
we mentioned him earlier, Archie Madekwe from Gran Turismo.
Hmm.
He has a supporting role in this movie. He's very good.
Hmm.
Jacob Elordi, plays Elvis in the new Priscilla movie and is from
Hmm.
Euphoria. He's very good in it. Rosamund Pike, I believe, is the name of the mom. I think she's quite good in it. She
Hmm.
has does a good job. Carrie Mulligan, um, who is also in Promising Young Woman, which was the previous film by the director of Saltburn, Emerald
Hmm.
Fennell. If you, which I
Dang.
remember you really liking that movie as well. So,
Yeah.
which is another reason why I thought that you would really respond to Saltburn.
Hmm. That's wild. It was free on Amazon.
Yes, it is. It is on Amazon Prime now. I saw it in
Hmm.
theaters,
Hmm.
but yeah, anyone has the ability to watch it.
Hmm. Affirmative. All right. What is your number three,
My
brother?
number three, I know it's in your top three. Is it still your number one? Because I think it was your number one before. Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse.
It's not my number one, but because it is my number two, we can talk about it in tandem.
We can talk about it in tandem. That
Yeah.
is what I expected. In fact, it was
Hmm.
my number one at the halfway through the year list, and it was my number one for a little while, but yeah, it's still a groundbreaking revolutionary achievement of animation and cinema in
Hmm.
general.
Yep.
Um, Literally, the only criticism I have for the movie is that it's a part one.
Yeah, dude, you know why it's not my number one? I literally thought to myself, I was like, man, the movie is so good. I told Ryan, the first movie is like an A plus, like pretty much, but this movie was like an A minus A. And the difference from it being, and I was like, there's no way, unfortunately, like, sorry, it's not there's no way, but it is very hard to take a middle movie of a trilogy that's like planned to be a middle movie and everybody knows it's gonna be a middle movie and make it be like a perfect movie. Like the beginning could probably be perfect, the ending might be able to be perfect, but it's tough to pull it off and make the middle one good. And this one isn't even like trying. It doesn't really even bring things to a conclusion. It's just like,
Yeah,
all right, here's the setup for the
I
next movie.
here's the thing. I actually don't think it's that hard. I think it's actually fairly common for the second movie of a trilogy to be a standout.
Maybe you're
You
right. Actually, I'm being
Empire Strikes
facetious in that.
Back, Two Towers,
Movies that bring something to a conclusion, even though we know it's
yeah,
gonna keep going. Like,
yeah,
yeah.
The Godfather Part Two, The Dark Knight. The
Hmm.
Dark
Yeah,
Knight.
actually,
Yeah.
yeah. I'm wrong.
But
I'm
so
wrong.
technically speaking, this movie fails at doing what a lot of those movies do.
Hmm.
Um, but also in a way, like, does it really end like with less of a cliffhanger than like Empire does? And that's generally hailed as one of, if not the best Star Wars films. But it fully ends on like a cliffhanger, and they've lost. And so to really cut this down movie just for that is unfair, but it's the only thing I can say about this movie that's not phenomenal.
Yep, that's it. That's all it is. It just ends with it. It does not really conclude itself. It is very much just a setup to the next movie. And that's the only thing that stops it. But everything else, it's fantastic. So well deserved placement. But because we went over my two, we can just go to your two.
We can just go to my number two and let's bring the shirt back out, baby. It's Heimer time or Enheimer time. So I don't suppose this is your number one.
It's not.
It's not. How unfortunate.
Mhm.
Oppenheimer slaps, bro.
Mhm.
Oppenheimer's such a good movie. I saw Barbie 3 times in theaters. I've also seen Oppenheimer 3 times in theaters. And Barbie's like two plus hour movie, while Oppenheimer's a 3 hour movie. And in both scenarios of seeing these movies 3 times, I never had a moment where I was bored watching the movie. And for Barbie, that's not a small feat, but like it's an upbeat, like big, bright movie. Like it's hard for it to be that boring. Oppenheimer is a movie like that is partially in black and white, that's a lot of like people in a room talking about science, and like or like boardroom hearings, and or like uh cabinet appointments in politics. Like this movie really shouldn't be as engaging and as good as it is, but it is so good. I'm surprised that you did not like it as much as I do, but like I do reserve the fact that it is a 3 hour movie, uh that like and may not be for everybody, but it really works for me. Like I every time I went back to that movie, I thought, well, maybe this is going to be less good than I remember, and maybe it's just gonna drag. And like it doesn't. Like I'm just along for the ride, and it's really just like a real like feat from Christopher Nolan.
Yeah, it is astounding to be able to take what are, in a sense, very mundane things to watch and imbue them with gravitas and the impact of what those events mean, eventually and over time. So I mean, yeah, fantastic movie. I gave
Yeah,
that movie like an A minus. Like it was,
yeah.
and again, this is why this list, my list is so much more subjective. Where I'm like, I literally rate this movie higher in a rating than multiple movies on my list here. But I look back and I thought about it and I was like, wow, great movie, but like, am I gonna go back and watch it again? Probably not. Like maybe like I wouldn't be opposed to it. Someone was like, "Oh, you're gonna watch Oppenheimer?" Yeah, I'll sit down and watch Oppenheimer. But that's even maybe another reference. It's like a over 3 hour movie, and it's like
Hmm.
when I think of over 3 hour movies, right? Sometimes it's like that's a commitment. I mean, 2.5 hour movies are already pretty, but like even just an extra 30, 45 minutes, like really puts it in like the dang, this is a chunk of my day. Am I
Yeah.
gonna chunk out my day to watch that movie again? I'm glad I watched it in theaters, but I don't know if I'm gonna chunk out my day to watch it again. Like I'd go. There's a few 3 hour-ish movies I would chunk out my day for. This movie doesn't make me feel that way. That's why it just can't really. That's why it doesn't really land into my top 10.
All right. Before we move on from it, I just want to, throw the shout outs. Killian Murphy kills it as Robert Oppenheimer. Um, uh, Emily Blunt, does a great job as his wife. This is where I thought you might have
I
Florence Pugh
know.
on your list.
I knew
Um,
you were talking about.
it was also funny. Listening to our halfway through the year list, you bringing up like that you were excited to see Florence Pugh in 2 upcoming movies, Oppenheimer, and of course Dune, which got pushed to next year. So we've
Uh,
not seen Dune Part 2 yet.
well, I
So
was really
that
excited
was
because I read the book and I know what character she's going to play.
You said that exact thing. Yeah. But yeah, and maybe the standout acting performance of the film, Robert Downey Jr., who
Mhm.
I did not realize was Robert Downey Jr. when I watched the movie.
I also only knew that because you mentioned it ahead of time.
I one of the times I watched the movie was with our dad, and after like he was like, that guy looks like Robert Downey Jr. I'm like, that is Robert Downey Jr. He's just like,
Damn.
yeah,
Yep. Well, I think that brings us to our number one movies of the
yeah.
year.
What could your number one be?
My number one. Do you have a guess? It was on my
I
list
sh-
from from the mid-year.
I should, but your number one was Spider Verse before, so you would have had to change the order, which is not allowed. It's a crime.
My number one is Chevalier.
It was your number two before, yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm not too
Hmm.
surprised by that,
Yeah.
because it was on your list before.
I remember thinking like back then, I was like, wow, I love this movie. This movie's fantastic. This is probably going to be one of my top 10. And then, yeah, like I went back and just, again, I looked at these names on the list and I thought to myself, and like when the names popped out, I was just like, bam, that movie was great. Like it just, in my head, it shouted out at me. And I was like, yeah, like my reaction was automatic. And if anything, my reaction was automatic and without reservation. Like,
Mhm.
Spider-Man, Saltburn, like, I would say like I might like find something to criticize about it. Spider-Man, I have something to criticize about it. I'm not saying that Chevalier is a perfect movie, but I didn't like even find a reason to try to criticize it. I like
Yeah.
to, I was just like, this told a story, and like that. I like the story. I like, what was told and how it was done, and yeah. So
Yeah.
that is my number one.
That is your number one. But what is my number one? Well, I will note that I did not lie when I told you in recommending Saltburn that it was in my top 10.
And
And
so I was correct.
I knew it would be in my top 10 no matter what because it was my number one from the moment I watched it.
Wow.
I I did not. So when you were talking about it, I had to save some level of talking about it because I wanted to leave some hint of surprise that it's
Hmm.
my number one. But yeah, one thing that you're talking about, like there's like a quality about the movie that it's hard to even describe what makes it so like captivating. And one of
Hmm.
the things like I touched upon, like I thought all the acting performances were good. One thing about the movie that like and I recognized it early on in watching it was the cinematography and the way that it's shot. Like they're like, especially early on, I remember there's like a scene where they're like, I think they're either on bikes going up to a bridge or they're running toward a bridge. Just the way that the picture is shot, like the way that it's framed, I'm like, wow, this like you could just print this off, make a post like a painting of it on my wall, and like I would be like, that's beautiful. Like the movie was
Hmm.
just stunning to look at. And there's certainly a lot of provocative stuff that there's at least one scene where I didn't necessarily like I could see people not wanting to look at it because it's like
Hmm.
a lot. And you mentioned the twist, and I will be honest, the twist is like the third act of the
It's
movie is not the best, but
hmm.
like it did not take away the level of like the feeling of like how captivated I was with the movie and like Barry Keoghan, man.
Yeah, I agree. Again, it's just even if there's criticism to be had about how it ended and stuff, it still just worked.
Hmm. God, yeah. And so I'm happy with how high it made it on your list.
Hmm.
Even I don't think I expected it to be your number one, to be honest. I think it's a bold choice for me to have it as my number one, but like I know how I felt watching it, and it was just mwah, chef's
Yeah, I remember
kiss.
at the end of it, I was just like, when it finally was over, I was just like, "Fuck, that was a movie!" Like,
It really is.
Well,
Um,
there she blows the top 10 for 2023. Now, honorable mentions.
I can go through a handful of honorable mentions. I'm not going to mention any of the movies that were on my halfway through the year list. If you want to hear what I liked at that point, then
Mm,
that podcast exists.
mm,
But let's go with some of the more movies since then that I think deserved a shout out. Thanksgiving, the Eli Roth horror movie, inspired by the preview in Grindhouse. Did
mm.
you watch Thanksgiving, brother?
Nope.
Oh, you don't really like horror movies in general.
Mm,
That movie was so good. Like I think it's probably like it wrestles for my favorite horror movie of the year. Um, Asteroid City. That movie is great. The Color Purple, Sisu. Oh, I Sisu was my 11 last time, but I didn't technically make my list, but it's very good. Totally killer. Godzilla minus one, as you mentioned. Talk to me. Um, and hey, Taylor Swift, the Eras Tour. That movie slapped.
okay.
Did you not watch it?
No, no, I
it, wa-
didn't.
it was very good. Time Person of the Year, Taylor Swift. You know,
Okay.
holds the same title as Hitler.
Yeah. Okay. Um, honorable mentions because I didn't technically make it into my list. Holdovers, without rearranging things more. Oppenheimer was a fantastic movie.
Yeah,
Could not be done it. Haunting in Venice.
that's a good movie. I liked it.
I actually want to say I didn't think it was like a great movie, but I really like Who Done It. So I
Yeah.
just, yeah, like I wanted to mention it for that reason. And then there was actually another movie that I literally forgot about that made it onto another, like, as we were talking, another movie that was forgotten that I wish I had mentioned, or maybe even, but I can't
Put
remember
in
what it
your
is, but I
list.
didn't write it down. I didn't write it down. I heard it and was like, damn, that's another one I forgot. I think it starts with an S.
S.
Uh,
S S S S S S S S S S S S. Sound of Freedom.
oh, that definitely deserves an honorable mention. That's another movie I forgot and didn't put on my list of movies. I have watched actually like 35 movies, so
And that was in my thing, so you probably just forgot about
I
it.
yeah,
I
maybe I
I
just skipped
I
over it accidentally.
I bring it up because I know that you really liked it.
I cried more than I ever have for any other movie. That's, can
That's
one
saying
say
something.
they liked it? Like it's hard for me to say I liked it. I mean, I didn't like feeling yeah, like sobbing in a room full of people for an hour and a half, but it's a movie that deserves to be watched. Um,
Yeah.
there's another movie. Fortunately, it's been forgotten. It was mentioned. It was mentioned briefly. We said the name here on the podcast. So, but I cannot remember it.
Alas.
Let me ask
Alas.
you. I wanna know what are the bottom five on your list, Ryan? Just give them to
Bottom
me
five.
really fast.
So I can't remember if I did these for my halfway through the year list. I think that I probably did. And so I don't know if I want to name because a lot of them are from the beginning of the year. So I'm gonna limit this to movies that came out in the second half of the year.
Hmm.
So
Just so
let's
we
go.
know, list of 160 movies seen this year. These are some absolute bottom boys. Maybe they're not actually bad movies, but they are on the bottom of 160 or so movies.
So we're gonna let like again, this is I'm just looking at movies that I watched after the midway point here because I think I don't want to shit too much on. Actually, you know what? Let's just shit on all of
Just
them.
just shit on them. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. We're gonna go with my seven least favorite movies. And the first one, I think you actually liked it. The Last Voyage of the Demeter. I hated that movie.
No, it was not very good. Like I wanted
Yeah.
to like it. There's some cool stuff going there, but I'm just like,
I
it was
fell
whatever.
asleep. The Nun 2. Better than The Nun, but still bad. You People. I think this was one I probably talked about before. And it's just like the more I think about it, the less I like it. You know,
Really quick, what is You People?
it's Jonah Hill dates this black girl whose parents, one of which is Eddie Murphy, doesn't want
Oh,
her dating a white guy.
hmm.
Yeah.
I see how that could have been funny or really bad.
Yeah, and it was really bad. 65, the dinosaur movie with Adam Driver.
Oh my word.
Dinosaurs and Adam Driver. I should have liked this, but I didn't. Skinamarink, it just did not grab me. I've heard people say it's one of the scariest movies they've ever seen. I don't get it. Best Christmas ever. I really went out of my way to watch movies that I wouldn't normally. And this was a Netflix Christmas movie starring Heather Graham, Jason Biggs, and Brandy, and it's just bad. I liked Brandy in it. She was good. Let's see. Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey, Trash Fire movie, probably the actual worst movie of the year. But I do put one movie as worse for me because like the novelty factor of the Winnie the Pooh still like was like there was like a little bit of like serotonin release and being like anytime they say Winnie the Pooh, I'm like, that's funny. Like it's a very bad movie, but there's a little bit in the back of my brain that's just like, haha, Pooh Bear. The worst movie, in my opinion, that I've seen this year was a movie called Fear.
What was that about?
It's about a group of friends that go to a cabin, or like this house. I can't remember why they're getting together. But yeah, they all get together, and like one of them wants to. Uh, oh, it's they're the first time getting together after COVID. I forgot. So there's a lot of talking in the movie about like how they're nervous about being sick and how they all needed to make sure that they tested before they came and like they wanted to make sure none of them were sick. And one of the characters played by Ti ends up like showing symptoms of being sick, and everyone gets very upset about that. Um, but like at some point in the movie, they like sit around a campfire and they're just like, let's all talk about our greatest fears. And so it's like, oh, like they're gonna have to, face down their greatest fears. And so you're like, oh, they're gonna have like fears that are like gonna like manifest in a way that's like freaky, like that's sort of like the idea of the movie. But like they start like naming their fears, and like some of them are like, oh, I'm afraid of drowning, and like I'm afraid of like uh I can't even remember all the fears. But then some of them's like, I'm afraid of my friends not trusting me. And one of them's like, I'm afraid of the police. And so for the guy that's afraid of the police, he literally just has visions of the police chasing him down. Like in the middle of this cabin. Like he just stops seeing reality and he's put into a different world to experience it. Like, which I don't even know how you do this movie, like, right. Like, because it seemed like it should work, but like it was like and like it's like a lower budget movie, I think. Like it's clearly it looks cheaply made. Um but yeah, like just bad. It was
Sounds
bad.
like trash.
Yeah. Like I said, Winnie the Pooh is probably an actually worse movie, like a lazier movie than this. Like I feel like someone put effort into this movie, but I had a worse time watching it than Winnie the Pooh.
Your effort doesn't matter. You suck.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that's kind of cool to hear the bottoms of a list that big.
Yeah.
Um, but I mean, that's pretty much all, right? Like we're Dunskies
That's it.
here.
I think so.
Right on. Well, nice little send off for 2023. If you watch this podcast and you made it all the way to the end, definitely would check out some of our top tens. I mean, I think everything in the top 10 is worth watching. And well, no, I wouldn't actually say that because some of this is subjective. I would say if
Yeah.
if you want to be judicious with your time, I think at least my top fives are worth watching, in
I would
my
say
opinion.
I think I would recommend my entire top 10, but like I have, my own tastes, you know?
Yeah, for sure. Um, and if you really want to know what you should watch, you should message us directly or comment and ask.
Yes, that is fair.
Yes, do that. Engagement.
Yes,
Subscribe.
engage. I have a plan to like make a video like sort of breaking out all my 160 movies into tiers. We will see how that goes.
Ooh, I want to see that.
Yes,
Me. I want to
yes.
watch. Excellent.
Oh,
Well,
all right.
we'll sign this off here, folks. So yeah, that's it. This has been Robert.
And Ryan.
Have a good one.
Yep.